Hello everyone, welcome back to Top Tips. Given the events of last year, it's understandable that Black people want to feel comfortable where they live. A part of that comfort is knowing there are a decent number of people that look like you in the area. But what if there's a state you find really interesting, but there aren't that many Black people? If you can know where most of the Black community is in the state, it can hopefully make you feel more comfort in moving in the area. With that said, here's a list of the blackest cities in the states with the lowest Black population. Number 10. Albuquerque, New Mexico. The overall percentage of Blacks in New Mexico is just below 3%. The majority of the state is populated with Hispanics, whites, and Native Americans. A common theme you'll find throughout this list is that most of the Black people in these states are in the major cities. That's the case with Albuquerque, New Mexico, which has a little over 15,000 Blacks in the area. Many formerly enslaved African Americans migrated from the South and set up farms there in the 1880s. Most descriptions I've read have said residents are generally accepting of everyone there, given that people from all over the country live there. Number 9. Portland, Oregon. The percentage of Blacks in Oregon is around 2.79%. Unfortunately, there's a sad history behind that. There were laws in place that banned Blacks from settling in Oregon. The reason were because of fears they would instigate Native American uprisings. These types of laws weren't repealed until 1926. If you have any interest in moving to this state, but you want to know there's Black people around, your best bet is Portland. Portland has a population of over 36,000 Blacks. You'll find most of them in what's referred to as the Soul District, located in North and Northeast Portland. In the discussions I've read, most people have said there are a variety of Black groups in the area that can help you feel less alone. Other Black residents warn that passive-aggressive racism isn't uncommon despite how liberal the city is portrayed to be. Number 8. Sioux Falls, South Dakota. About 2.6% of the population in South Dakota is Black. Interestingly, there was an article I read that stated South Dakota has one of the fastest growing Black populations in the U.S. One of the main reasons it's growing there is because of African immigrants moving to the area. Unfortunately, many of the reviews I read weren't kind about how accepting South Dakotans are of Black people. But the best place to go if you want to make sure you have Black people near you is Sioux Falls. It has a population of about 10,900 Blacks. Recently there have been Black-owned businesses that meet up in the area to support each other. Number 7. Manchester, New Hampshire. The New Hampshire Black population represents around 2.24% of the total state population. It's another state that's seen its Black population grow in recent years. The growth is particularly in the south and southeast portion of the state. Blacks are expected to make up more of the population given many of them are younger, whereas the white populations are a lot older. Comments from other Blacks who've lived there have been mixed. While New Hampshire residents tend to mind their own business, there have been issues of racial slurs directed at some Blacks and disproportionate law enforcement interactions. From what I've read, it's generally best to stay in the southern part of the state or near college towns. To be near the most Blacks, you'll want to live in the Manchester area, which has about 5,700 Blacks. Number 6. Portland, Maine. About 1.99% of the population in Maine is Black. It's just below 22,000 residents. The state has often been deemed the whitest state in America, with over 90% of the population being white. One theory for why Maine hasn't had many African Americans in its history is because plantation farming wasn't central to its economy. Even after the Civil War, not many Blacks moved into the area. Today, half the Black population in Maine are immigrants from Africa. In recent years, groups such as Black-owned Maine have helped to keep African Americans connected in the state. As far as finding yourself around more people that look like you, your best bet is Portland, Maine, which has a Black population of about 5,530. Number 5. Burlington, Vermont. Much like Maine, Vermont is usually found to be in the top tier of white states in America. The percentage of African Americans in the state is about 1.94%. Vermont was actually the first state to ban slavery in 1777. There was also a stop on the Underground Railroad in the state. With those two facts, you probably wonder why there aren't more Blacks in Vermont. One professor argued that there were never any jobs, history, or culture that attracted Blacks to the state. Similar to Maine, Since farming wasn't as much of a central part of Vermont's economy, blacks never ended up there. After the Civil War and into the 20th century, blacks tended to gravitate towards the major cities for industrial jobs. Some black residents have described Vermonters as well-intentioned, but at times lacking in awareness of how their words and actions can make blacks uncomfortable. Burlington, Vermont is the city you can be around the most black people, with a population of about 2,327. Number 4. Cheyenne, Wyoming. Wyoming has a black population of about 1.68%. If I had guessed before I started this list, I would have picked Wyoming as having the lowest percentage of blacks, though the state is nearly at the top for having the lowest total black population, with just under 5,600 residents. There was very little I could find on the history of blacks in Wyoming. In the early 1900s, there was once a black community in the state called Empire. Unfortunately, because of racial hostility from neighboring towns, the community would be pushed out after 2 decades. In 2021, the state made history in electing the first black sheriff in Wyoming. You'll find most black people in the city of Cheyenne, which has a little over 1,100 black residents. Number 3. Salt Lake City, Utah. I guess you could say Wyoming and Utah are tied because I couldn't find a source that put one lower than the other. The percentage of blacks in Utah is about 1.68%. While blacks had some presence in Utah in the early 1800s, it wouldn't be until 1847 when Mormons would bring slaves into the area. Slavery was eventually abolished in the state in 1862. Once they were freed, blacks established their own churches, though segregation persisted until the Civil Rights era. The theme of most experiences I read from black Utah residents is it's not uncommon to have to deal with explaining themselves to others who lack understanding, and dealing with the occasional inappropriate interactions. Utah's black population has grown in recent years, though, mostly in Salt Lake City, which has a total population of around 4,700 African Americans. Number 2. Boise, Idaho. At 1.10%, Idaho has the second lowest percentage of African Americans in the country. Black people arrived in Idaho mostly during World War II. They went there to fill jobs left behind by white men who had enlisted. They worked in naval ordnance plants to recalibrate naval guns. Many blacks also ended up in Pocatello and Boise, Idaho doing railroad work. Today, Boise has the highest population of African Americans, with a total population a little under 4,000 residents. While many people in Boise are said to be pleasant, residents have mentioned that there are still attitudes in the state that aren't as welcoming of minorities. Some residents have advised avoiding the northern part of the state in particular. Number 1. Billings, Montana. Coming in at number 1 is Montana, where African Americans only make up 1.04% of the state population. When I looked through the cities to find which city in Montana had the most African Americans, I'll be honest, even I was alarmed at how low the population was. There's only one city that has at least 1,000 African Americans in it. Despite being small in numbers, blacks managed to form communities in the state in the late 1800s working as barbers and laborers. The main reason many generations after didn't stay were because of discrimination and lack of job opportunities. The experiences I've read of black residents who live there are usually that there are varying levels of unpleasant racial interactions. But, on a positive note, there are groups of people who organized racial marches in hopes of improving things. The state also elected its first black mayor in 2017. If you decide to visit Montana, you'll find the most African Americans in Billings, which has a population a little over 1,100. Thanks for watching. I sincerely hope this video has been helpful in presenting good options for traveling to these states. If you liked watching, please like and share this video and subscribe to our channel. This is Top Tips, tipping you off.